we are able to give them as they visit. Very many universities have been reaching out to us, and they've also participated in our youth leadership programs. I'm mentioning this because it resonates with the team. Women programs, we have what we call centers of excellence, center of excellence, and we also have institutes that are specifically dedicated to certain needs. And this contributes to resilience building because we have a whole Institute for Devolution Studies where we have deployed a director level person. We have what we call centers of excellence. One of the most recent one is the Center for Customer Service Excellence, a collaboration. I can see my colleagues from Huduma Center here, a very upcoming, and of course we have trained quite a number of people, and we are looking forward targeting the entire public service to go through that transformation. It may look minor, but just by heightening the customer service focus, indeed it can help us to be more responsive, to be more acceptable to the people we focus on. So some of the key programs, as I just almost wrap up, we integrate transformative leadership in all our programs, and we are very keen on methodologies that can help us achieve mindset change, because when we talk about agility, it also requires mindset transformation and culture change. So you find in some of our recent programs things like lateral thinking being taught, design thinking, maybe you can check out that later. Design thinking is about thinking more about the customer, creative thinking, innovation. We have programs on public service innovation. And why am I emphasizing innovation? Because if you're not innovative, you cannot change, and we want to be able to change in good time. So business continuity planning, risk management are programs I would recommend that we think about, not only from the capacity building angle, but can we review our risk policies or develop them when we don't have them? I think one of the speakers earlier in the day talked about a public service innovation policy. It was exciting for me. If this can get out, we would really appreciate that, and we can push the public service further. So I'll not mention very many of these programs, but as I wrap up, I want to say, for you to build organizational resilience, you must be very good at anticipating and preparing for those changes. You must have a proactive mindset. Otherwise, you will be caught when you're not ready. So we must anticipate and have that anticipatory orientation to help us cope. Leadership and culture change is key. Having foresight and situational awareness, being sensitive as public service institutions to the changes internally and also changes externally. This could be in the region or also global changes. We need to accommodate that. I think flexibility and agility was emphasized earlier. And as I said earlier, business continuity planning, I think it's an area we are not doing very well in the public service. We need to think more about business continuity planning, thinking about the worst case scenario and how will our businesses prosper or proceed, you know, in difficult circumstances. So we should anticipate these discontinuities and plan for them well in advance. But my carry home for you is mindset change. Are we thinking proactively? Are we anticipating the worst case scenario so that we can be able to plan for that worst case scenario? I think with those comments, as we address this theme of enhancing agility and resilience in public institutions, my appeal is that we start thinking about resilience building. Let us teach our staff, the employees in public service, that times will be hard, but we must also teach them resilience building skills, coping skills in those difficult times. I think if you look at the Kenyan situation, we are being asked to do more with less, and it becomes very important that we are agile, and especially for the leaders in the public service. We should be able to handle these changes very calmly, very soberly, without causing panic. Because resilient organizations or resilient people give people hope, even when times are very hard. So in our school, we focus on that top leadership capacity building, and we see the fruits of this. Indeed, some of our participants do indicate that this has transformed them. So let us adopt to change, whether it is incremental, whether it is sudden. We need to be ready for those changes. Thank you, Bwana Ngote.
Can we applaud her for that response? Bwana Mike, I want to demonstrate resilience and agility in this session. Now that I don't have my other discussants, the other two, we can't pretend to want to do what they were supposed to do. Endeavor would want to hand over to you so that the next group comes. You had allowed us 15 minutes, so Dr. Guest and myself have used our 15 minutes. But just to add on what she's saying, all our ministries have systems for responding to changes. In this country, when there is change of administration, we develop new strategic plans. Those plans enable us to respond to an incoming administration. We have policies that are subject to review. The fact that there are provisions in our policies to be reviewed so that we take into account changes in the environment demonstrates that we have actually systems that enable us to respond to the environment. My encouragement will be that between now and the next 18 months, all our public institutions should be looking at how the issue of artificial intelligence is going to impact on what we are doing. We can't sit and talk about how we used to do it in the 70s. We can't sit and talk about how it used to be in the 80s. Times have changed. We need to relook at our systems, look at our leadership, the public service character, so that we actually can respond to the environment. We will not be the only ones. Even America currently is going through that pain. The divorce between Donald Trump and Elon, and the perceived efficiency measures by Elon. What is the future of those measures now that there's a divorce? Even world security is changing. I saw leadership in America. Some top leaders in America were celebrating that Russia has made a lot of great moves into Ukraine. So then how do we even relook at foreign policies? How do we relook at education? In the morning I heard somebody talking about, we used to be told that education was a guarantee for changes in our lives. But today it's no longer the case. So then how do our institutions even repackage themselves? Dr. Ngesa has told you about how the Kenya School of Government reimages itself and looks at the environment in which we are operating. We are concerned with security issues. We are concerned with the gender issues. We are concerned with issues of the impact of technology on service delivery. How do you then become relevant? We have in the neighborhood opportunities for Kenya to have impact. How do we exploit opportunities in countries like the Republic of South Sudan? How do we exploit opportunities in Somalia? There are opportunities for us in DRC Congo, and there are opportunities inside this country. Even for us in the public service, empowering non-state actors in this country to actively participate in what is required under Article 10 of the Constitution, public and civic engagement. Have we empowered the citizens who should be interrogating our policies? We have such opportunities. So I want to encourage ourselves that we all take time to reflect on what we do, to actually demonstrate that there is always that opportunity for agility and resilience, in that we can achieve equitable governance, rapidly addressing historical service delivery gaps. I know my colleagues who will come after us will build on this and talk to us about what their theme is. Mike, I want to hand it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's appreciate Mr. Simon Angote, OGW, and our sister, Dr. Rachel Ngesa, for that well-presented segment. I'm double sure we've gotten something. I thought it was with less presentation time, but I'm glad because that was what was prepared for us. Let's give them a more hearty clap, ladies and gentlemen, to the presenters, Dr. Rachel and Mr. Simon. Strengthening public institutions to address historical inequalities and promote inclusivity is our next topic that we need to discuss, focusing on strengthening institutional accountability, enhancing administrative professionalism, addressing the historical services delivery gaps affecting marginalized emerging ethnic communities, women, youth, and people with disability, championing the protection of rights and promotion of the welfare and interest of Kenyans, overseas, and migrant workers. Allow me to bring on stage a good friend of mine, and this is none other than an individual who is an experienced public sector governance and management specialist. He combines both academic and extensive practical experience in government and private sector, and also international organizations. He is currently the Deputy Commission Secretary, Performance and Compliance Public Service Commission, and the Vice President Programs, African Community of Practice of Managing and Developing Results, AFCOM FMDR. Put your hands together for none other than Dr. Sylvester Obong as he comes to present to us. Karibu sana daktari.
Thank you very much. I hope we are on. Thank you. Presenting in the afternoon is one of the most difficult challenges people face, especially after heavy lunch that was offered. I'll be looking at the topic strengthening public institutions to address historical inequalities and promote inclusivity. The main key issues that I'm going to look at is, one, what are the historical inequalities? Two, how do we then promote inclusivity? I therefore have not a very long presentation. The outline, I'm going to look at first introduction, then I'm going to look at the historical context of inequalities in Kenya. And then I'm going to look at strengthening institutional accountability, the context of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the much talked about subject of devolution, and then the international frameworks for addressing inequalities. I'm then going to look at briefly at the role of the public service, and then why are we talking about promoting inclusivity and inequality? I'm therefore going to look at generally the role and the rationale for promoting inclusivity. I have that diagram there because if you do all those things to promote both vertical and horizontal cohesion, if you promote inclusivity and deal with inequalities, you are therefore enhancing social cohesion. And social cohesion, as is emerging, is really one of the most critical elements in driving national development and economic growth. Because through social cohesion, you get social mobility, and through social mobility, you can pull together the entire country into that development path. The inequality of human beings and their rights to equal respect and dignity is a key tenet of moral philosophy. Inequality, key tenet of moral philosophy. Human beings from all backgrounds, regardless of where they come from, deserve to be treated equally. The Economic Times defined inequalities as the differences in chances, resources, and results among people of groups in social, economic, or political situation. Inequality, the difference in chances, the difference in ability to get something, the difference in ability to acquire wealth, the difference in ability to be promoted at the place of work, the difference in ability to access medical services, the difference in ability to access education opportunities makes what we can call inequality. What are we saying therefore? Inequality can therefore be manifested in many ways. Unfair distribution of resources, discrimination, limited access to education, healthcare, and jobs. It is a social system that maintains or worsens those differences. So that is really what inequality entails. But what is the historical context of where we're coming from? Why are we where we are in Kenya? We are where we are because of the colonization history. We are where we are because of the policies that were propagated by the colonial government. In 1902, the British Protectorate initiated a policy of settling the Europeans in the White Islands. The White Islands were the fertile lands where the Africans occupied before they came. With that policy, disrupted, therefore, the social order by alienating fertile lands from the Africans and giving them to the Europeans. So the Africans were pushed to the marginalized areas which were not very fertile. That was the beginning of the inequalities we see in wealth generation. Subsequently, post-colonial system, the sessional paper number 10 of 1965 tried to address the social inequalities from the inherited colonial legacy. But this paper also, the policy that was propagated in that paper was to invest in the rich areas, invest in the high return areas, and expect that the resources that was made from those high resource areas would trickle down to the marginalized areas. So it was focusing on economic growth, hoping that through that growth we shall have development of other areas. So I think So, from that background, the government has tried, not really tried, the government has been addressing the issue of inequalities. The major one that I would like to really focus on is the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Addressing inequality and inclusiveness is at the heart of the Constitution 2010. In Chapter 10 of the Constitution, the National Values and Principle of Governance, Sections 2B, specifically addresses human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, human rights, non-discrimination, and protection of the marginalized. So we see specifically from the Constitution 2010, the government is addressing issues of inequality by laying down a constitutional framework. Article 232 on values and principles of public service, Section 1B, addresses impartiality and equity, while Part H addresses representation of Kenya's diverse communities and affording adequate and equal opportunities for appointment, training, and advancement at all levels of the public service. For both men and women, for members of all ethnic groups, and persons living with disability. It is therefore criminal to discriminate. Any form of discrimination is therefore criminal, and the right to equal opportunity is enshrined in the Constitution. The establishment then of Chapter 15 constitutional commissions, whose objective is the protection of sovereignty of the people, that means both local and international aggression, securing observance of democratic values and principles by all state organs, and promotion of constitutionalism is exactly why Chapter 15 constitutional commissions were established. Other people have defined the Chapter 15 constitutional commissions as the fourth arm of government because they are neither in the traditional three arms of government. And their role is really to check on the other arms of government. I want to specifically look at devolution, what devolution is bringing in strengthening. A lot has been talked about devolution, a very interesting subject which at one time I taught masters in public policy, taught the unit devolution. Very, very interesting concept, and what were its objectives. The Constitution established devolved structure and a legal framework for it to redistribute resources to ensure equitable social and economic development across the country. The whole issue of devolution was to ensure that resources were devolved to local levels. That not only resources were devolved, but also planning and participation involved those who were to benefit from those resources. So to address historical inequalities in the Constitution, or in Kenya before the Constitution 2010, the government also set up the Equalization Fund. The fund is operationalized by the Public Service Management Act, that legal number, and the principal purpose for this fund is to support provision of basic services including water, roads, health, electricity to marginalized areas to the extent necessary to bring quality of these services in those areas to the level generally enjoyed by the rest of the nation as far as possible. We're therefore saying that areas that could have been left out through the Equalization Fund, we are able to compensate them for the time that they were left behind. So, we have looked at the historical background where we are coming from. We have seen that to address that, the government of the country promulgated the Constitution of Kenya 2010 to strengthen the equality and everything. We are also looking at, yes, beyond Kenya, international conventions. There are 9 international conventions that promote issues of equality. Among them is the International Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, the International Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women, and International Convention on Protection of Rights of all migrant workers and members of their families. So not only are we addressing inequality within the country, even international conventions are, I've just mentioned 4, but there are 9, which looks at various aspects of discrimination, any form of discrimination. In this, what is the role of the public service? In this, I'm one person who believes that the public service must be the epitome of efficiency and effectiveness. And the public service must set the glass ceiling for a country to develop. Therefore, there are a lot of frameworks on ensuring equality and inclusivity. The foundation for promoting professionalism in the public service is a neutral, meritocratic, and professional public service. A neutral, meritocratic, and professional public service that can promote implementation of policies that address these challenges. With a neutral, meritocratic, and professional public service, then we are moving towards implementation of policies that address this. Because without that, then we still have nepotism, we still have patronage, we still have people who don't qualify getting their way into the public service, which is a great demoralization to other people who miss those opportunities. Without equitable distribution of service delivery to citizens, their expectation of equal access to socio-economic and political opportunities and overall improved standard of living cannot be met. We were discussing with with the head of Huduma, and we were saying that Huduma has done so well to make public services accessible to areas which hitherto to travel long distances. So one of the objectives of Huduma was, one, to make services accessible and therefore affordable. You don't need to travel long distances to get services, and therefore you can get them. And then we say equity is an imperative to assessing critical foundations of sustainable development. Without accessibility to medical services, you would die. Without accessibility to education services, you will not get equal opportunity. I just saw recently, I think the Ministry of Education has elevated about 20 or so schools to national level, which means that they will now be enjoying the same level of resource allocation as the other national service. When I went to school, I think there were 3 or 4 national schools. The Public Service Commission Act, number 10 of 2017, provides for diversity mainstreaming as contemplated under the Constitution. Diversity, equal opportunity to men and women, members of all ethnic groups, and persons living with disabilities. I remember, I think 2019, I was interviewing positions for the NMS, something like that, yeah, and compliance officers. And a guy just disappeared online. Then I called him later on in the evening, and I asked him whether he was able to take the interview, and he said he was going to work. I asked him, where are you going to work? He told me, I'm a watchman. This gentleman had a first-class degree in criminology from Masinde Muliro University. He performed so well in the interview, and I ranked him top of the list. And interesting enough, that time, the people who the list which I took are the people who were taken. 1.5 years down the line, I hear somebody knocking my door, and he's telling me, you know, I've looked for you. I Googled and managed to get where you are. I was just coming to see which this person in the 21st century Kenya can give somebody they don't know a job. Equal opportunity. Promotion of national integration and cohesion, and presentation of Kenya's diverse community, gender and ethnic communities and persons living with disabilities, Regulation 2020. I can see I have just about 5 minutes. Let me see if I will stream through this. The Code of Regulations on Mainstreaming Diversity looks at how do we ensure that the people who apply for public service commission or for public service jobs are people of diverse, all without discrimination. That is the challenge we're saying, because with social mobility, with a job in the public service, with a job or with education and a job, you can really elevate the status of the citizens. That is disability, those are policies. Then I want to really end by looking at rationale for promoting inclusivity. Why are we doing all these things? Why? Is it a buzzword? Is it for anything? And I believe inclusivity, often used with diversity, as multidimensional value that is both intrinsic and strategic. Intrinsic and strategic. That inclusivity and diversity are pursued both as an objective in itself, just to have people different, but because it can advance performance of government. I strongly believe that inclusivity and diversity can improve performance, especially of service delivery. When you bring people of different and diverse background, then they add value to the ideas. When you bring people of diverse backgrounds, then you are able to get better ideas than if you only look at one perspective. Inclusivity also relies on fairness and transparency across workplace operations, in particular, those of human resources. Diversity entails valuing people in their own merit, regardless of their background and characteristics. Regardless of the background and characteristics. You know, the first time I was experiencing discrimination, I was in fourth form, and there was an English teacher who believed that some people were stupid and some people are bright. So he could ask somebody a question, and that guy answers, and he says, "No way, look at him." Then another person answers the same thing, and he says, "Yes." And we realized that this teacher is biased, that you can answer the same thing, one person is right, the other person is wrong. But we're saying diversity entails valuing people in their own merit, regardless of their background and characteristics. In conclusion, I say that increasing equity and diversity requires different approaches to delivering successful outcomes. Acknowledging individuals' unique identities is critical in all levels of government. Showing individuals that they are perceived as a whole person who might not fit into any mold establishes a layer of trust and greater sense of connection, both within the public servants and for citizens. As we launched Rapid Results Approach in Kenya and decided to form teams based on people's contribution to the achievement of results, and included people who we hitherto would have not been included, because the public service works on this thing, cadres. You know, you are HR, or you are an economist, or you are an IT, and IT thinks that if you are HR, you don't know anything about IT. HR thinks that if you are IT, you don't know anything about HR. But when we brought people together in Rapid Disaster Approach and brought people of lower cadre and senior cadre together, ideas flourished and a lot of things were achieved. In fact, one of the things that surprised me in government when I joined was that even what they call senior management meeting, the letter, the memo calling for would be classified confidential. So you wonder what is so confidential about a senior management meeting. You go to public offices, then you'll see lifts reserved for job group what and above and those and above. And one of the most interesting stories I remember in Treasury as I joined the service, one day we entered the lift. We still didn't know what JN in closed and inverted commas and above meant. So we entered that lift. If you go to Treasury, the lift's on the right. And an officer came and got the five of us and asked us, "Which job group are you in? Get out of the lift." And he went with the lift alone. We were so mad. And we marked that guy until I think he retired. One will say inclusivity, getting people for who they are, treating them as equal, is an asset, promotes performance and service delivery in the public service. My parting shot, I was told to finish by 3:45. Having a society where everybody can participate and contribute is not only a human right, it is also good for economic growth and national development. Having a society where everybody can participate and contribute is not only a human right, but it is also good for economic growth and national development. Thank you very much.
I'm just laughing with my friend Daktari because exactly at 3:45 and he's done. Let's appreciate him once again. That's the reason he's a doctor. Asante sana, Daktari, and thank you so much for the insight. We were listening keenly. I could see people taking notes, and I'm glad because at the end of it all, we'll reflect and ask ourselves where we are today. We are moving on well, and I now wish to bring ourselves into the second level. We are glad because from the ministry, the State Department for Performance and Delivery Management, the PS has sent a very able person And this is a person that I call dear because he's one among the people who saw the ability in me, and they could prophesy and say, this is not where you belong, you need to fly higher. A seasoned administrator and management professional with over 26 or above years of distinguished experience in Kenya in public service, and currently serving in the Executive Office of the President, State Department for Performance Management, who have demonstrated exceptional leadership in public policy formulation. And he has been instrumental in enhancing citizen-centered governance, participation through his work in disaster preparedness areas, emerging responses, not notably in coordination during the Solai Dam. All of us are aware of the Solai Dam in Nakuru. And his analytical and communication strengths, combined with a track record across key ministries, including roads, transport, ICT, youth affairs, foreign affairs, and interior, have driven inclusive accountability, accountable and result-focused public servant in issues of reforms. I wish to request all of us to put our hands together as we invite our moderator to take his seat. This is none other than Mongo Chimwanga, EPS. Karibu sa. Let's appreciate Bwana Mongo as he takes his seat. We also wish to take this opportunity to welcome the discussants. And our first discussant is none other than the Chief Executive Institute of Human Resource Management, Guresha Abdullali. We invite her to take her seat. Let's appreciate Madam as she takes her seat. She's also a guru in the issues of human resource, having been in the field for quite some time and managing of the programs in the area of operations. And that's the reason today we have her to give us an insight on what we have today. We also have the Secretary General of African Society Association for Public Administration and Management, if you like, AAPM, and that is none other than Dr. George Scott. Let us appreciate Dr. as he takes his position. Dr. has a vast knowledge and expertise in the issues of public administration and management, and we are glad to have him today, and he will be sharing with us. We also have the Assistant Director Foreign Services, the State Department for Diaspora Affairs, Madam Ruth Kitonyi. Let us appreciate Madam Ruth as she takes the seat. And I'm glad because Daktari has elucidated a number of issues that my good brother, Bwana Mongo Chimwaga, will elucidate and also make us think broader as the moderator. Let us appreciate our panelists as I hand it over to our moderator. A lot of applause for them, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Mongo, kindly, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gitone, and thank you, Dr. Obonyo, for that very elaborate presentation. We were so many before we left for lunch. I don't know whether it's part of historical injustices that the numbers have all of a sudden gone down, but we'll not pick that as an issue. I wish to flip this a bit, that for those of us who are in the auditorium, we've been listening in from this end. So I want to flip it. I'll provoke you, but I want you, for each of these segments, I want the questions to elicit from where you are sitting, so that these panelists then can respond to. In that respect, we will be more practical in terms of what the status of things is than if we are to do it from this end. And why I'm putting it that way is Dr. Obonyo has given us the status of things in terms of the policy and legal framework in respect of where we are as a country, looking at the topic in focus. So both at the historical level, both at the legal and policy framework, we are seeing what the country has done in both these respects to augment what was obtaining at some point in earlier years. So it is you to tell us what is the status of things, and moving forward, what needs to be done to completely erase some of these gaps, and whether or not some of these things are still happening within the mainstream public service. And if they are not, then let's appreciate as a country that we've moved a notch higher. Dr. Bonyo talked about the Constitution, and we know the provisions there are not just constitutional strictures, but they are requirements for us to make sure we implement. We have statutes still talking to the same discriminatory issues that have been observed over the time. We have, aside from statutes, we have even international conventions speaking to some aspects of this. We also have policies that have been crafted by government to assist in making sure that some of these historical gaps are addressed. But as we sit here, I have a very strong, distinguished panel to address some of those concerns from you. I have a few of mine, but I will leave them for last. First things first, I wanted to hear from the plenary so that you raise your issue and then they respond directly. Thank you. If that is okay with us, then we start from which side? Okay. Who wants to go first? You had the presentation, very elaborate, from Dr. Bonyo. The panelists are here. You had Dr. Scott, Secretary General APAM. We have Madam Kitoni from Foreign Affairs. I know there's something specific about the diaspora Kenyans, the welfare and interests of diaspora Kenyans, and migrant workers as one of the focus areas that Dr. talked about. So that one will be specific to her. We have Madam Kuresha here from IHRM, the Institute for Human Resource Management. And of course, Dr. Bonyo is here, and me, I'm from Performance and Delivery Management. If there's anything associated with that, let me have it. Then we talk. So who goes first? Who goes first? Thank you. Who will assist me? Thank you.
Thank you. I was taking note since morning from the PS opening speech to the CS, now to the presenters. And one thing is logging in my mind. My name is Caleb Ngala. Caleb Ngala is a youth leader in Mathare Sub-County. And also I have a community-based organization that is advocating for the matters of policies. And we have participated in several, including finance bill that is about to be read in few days to come. One thing that we are facing as the consumer, let me say as consumers, because I'm not a public service myself, is public service in Kenya faces numerous challenges, including political interference, corruption, management of public resources, and lack of public confidence. These are the key elephant in the room. How can we address them? I'm happy because our country have made a very big milestone, and I'm talking on behalf of the community members and even the public. Today, a lot of services, you are getting them online. We have at least reduced even the timeline of getting those services. When it comes to issues to do with birth certificate, there are some areas like, for example, Homa Bay. If you go to Homa Bay, the system are still analog, not digital, when it comes to application of the birth certificate. Is it something that will be rolled out, ama ni kitu tu ya kufanyika within Nairobi and some other big cities, while the other areas of the country are being left out when it comes to service delivery? There is this a cry from the young people, and we have a WhatsApp group here, and I shared my pictures when I was here, and they have told me, tell the government that the condition they are putting when it comes to registrations of groups and CBO, they are beyond what we can do. Previously, registration of groups were 1,050. Today, registration of group is 1,050, and you need to pay another 2,000 for a certificate, for training certificate. And another additional of another money to be spent in cyber, doing typing, writing, and whatever, and photocopy, scanning. Registration of a group today in our country, it will cost you not less than 7,000. Kindly, can you revert it back to where it was, 1,500, so that we can know our youths are in groups, and this is part of a radicalization of drugs and substance use and crime within our communities. If we left our youth scattered, then we will not be able to address matters to do with crime and drugs and substance use within our community. Take it back. When it comes to service delivery timeline, perfect. When it comes to issues of corruption, still there, especially at the NTSA inspection, there are still a lot of issues of corruption. When it comes to issues, maneno ya polisi hata sitaki kuongelea, Mungu anisamee, hiyo tumewachia Mungu na investigators. But politicians should not be the driving force of our country when it comes to public service. Let it be independent. Let these people serve what they sow in to serve. After that, let them go home. But this getting orders, and even putting a lot of restriction when it comes to service delivery, kindly let that end. But maneno ya kuregister CBOs, maneno ya kuregister group, kindly go back and review that policy that I don't know whether it's a policy or what, that is restricting people from registering the groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ngala. So the panelists have picked them, and you will get responses. Who is the next one? Gender representation. Anybody else? Okay, so we'll pick those ones. Okay. You are part of the rapporteur, so go ahead. You are Kenyan.
My name is Morris. It's not a question, but I wanted if the panel will be able to discuss this. Like we have, normally have under inclusivity, we have public participations. But in some cases, it's done, but people are still not satisfied. How, therefore, can we find a way of ensuring that after public participation, the citizens feel that they were heard? In most cases, when you do public participation, we cannot always go with what they are suggesting. But how do we do it in a way that even if we don't go by their suggestion, we make them feel that we listen to them and we explain to them, we make them understand why, as much as they suggested A and B, we decided to go with C. I think that will be able to make them feel, and the citizen feel, that as much as their decision was not taken, but they were listened to. So I wanted the panel to maybe help us come up with how do we do it in a way that they feel that their voice was heard.
Thank you so much for that. Okay. So this time round, we can include some of the senior officers if they have anything. If they don't, we respond to this. Okay, so the first one was on political interference. And who will go first? Daktari?
Thank you very much. For us to understand what we are looking at, especially we have to look at the history of the country. A number of things are not just going to disappear overnight. And you'll appreciate that in Kenya, we have what we call a bureaucracy that more or less resembles an authoritative, autocratic bureaucracy because of the role of the bureaucracy in politics before. You will appreciate that from independence up to almost 2010, the district officer was the returning officer, the district officer was the development officer, the district officer was the security chair, and the district commissioner, that is, the district commissioner were all those. Moving away from that overnight is going to take a long time, but the Constitution of Kenya 2010 gave the clear background and platform to move away towards a professional and ethical public service. Towards that, it therefore, above all, and as I mentioned in my presentation, set up the Chapter 15 Constitutional Commissions, whose role is to ensure constitutionalism. What does constitutionalism in this place entail? It says that even appointments in the public service must be through competitive recruitment process. With the legislations that I also cited in my presentation, we hope that gradually we shall move towards the ideal public service that we envisage. Just last week, I think the president signed the disability bill into law, which means that we are moving towards various aspects of inclusivity. When the constitutional commissions don't report to any other authority other than Parliament and the President, it means that they can act independently. The Public Service Commission, for example, is expected to recruit competitively and meritocratically. All other recruitments are supposed to follow that aspect. Therefore, as much as, yes, we can say that there is political interference in the public service, we have the foundations to move towards an independent, neutral, and professional public service. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. For that. Any other panelists who wishes to go there? Aside from the political interference, there was political interference on service delivery where politicians are giving instructions for implementation of public services. So maybe a comment on that from Secretary General APAM, and be seated, please, because I'm told the cameras, when you stand up, they can't pick you.
Thank you very much. As indicated, I'm the Secretary General of APAM, and APAM is a continental body on the African continent. So the way I'm going to see things are covering the continent instead of particular countries, and also I'm from Ghana. The issue of political interference in public service seems to be a prevalent issue on the continent, where in any particular country, when we raise the issue of public service, the first question that comes on the floor is the issue of political interference. And by political interference, that has been defined by a presenter, where politicians seem to interfere with the decision-making processes, which normally should have been taken by the public service. Like our presenter said, many of the problems that are bedeviling the public service of today flow from the colonial legacy. They are not issues which were cultivated at this particular time. I must say that soon after the colonial people faded away in Kenya, in my own country, Ghana, and many other countries, there have been many what we call administrative reforms aimed at ensuring efficiencies, aimed at ensuring some form of political division between the public service and the politicians. But it is true, we should not deny it, that in many countries there is a lot of political interference in the system. The argument from the political system is that, of course, they are the supervisors of the day. They have a political manifesto to implement. They have a term of office, 3 years, 4 years, in some countries 5 years. And they must ensure that things go the way they have promised the citizens. That's the way of it. But these are things that what we have to do. For example, in some countries, what is happening is that the National Development Plan and what we call the political manifesto are even converged. Sometimes we don't even know the difference between what people are saying is the political manifesto and what is the National Development Plan. True, it is an area in the case of Kenya, there are constitutional provisions, and I believe that Kenya has done very well in some of these areas, though we still have some areas to go. We believe that in further reforms, Kenya has done a lot of reforms in administration, and I believe that the reform has not ended. These are the areas that we should tackle. When we come, that question was linked to the issue of corruption. Issues of corruption also comes on the platform anytime you go on any forum like this. Every country on the continent talks about corruption. Like what our presenter said, there are a lot of legal regulations which have been put in place. In Ghana, for example, there are what we call a permanent financial management regulation, and Kenya also has, which indicates how the budgets must be done, the issue of audit control, the issue of the accounting system, the issue of revenue generation, and so on and so forth. Incidentally, studies show that some of these things, we need to work at them, I must confess. So we must continue to work on these issues, the issue of politics. In the issue of audit control, which has become an issue, most of the audit reports still stand on file unimplemented. Auditors make large comments as to how things move, but these things are. So we still, all of us on the continent, still have a lot of homework to do. And I believe in many countries, efforts have been made. Let us all give the push to ensure that these are done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Scott. Now, Madam Kuresha, your opinion on the interference for service delivery and corruption, and then how do we insulate the public service from political interference?
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to add to that conversation, and I like how Caleb has started. He said he wants to look at this from a consumer perspective, which is good. And I also appreciate him for the positive feedback he gave in terms of the digitization and the services. Now, within our constitution, you know, we have 3 arms of government. We have the judiciary, we have the legislative, and we have the executive. And thank you. Now, when you look at that class, you talked about the political class. They're the ones who do most of the legislations, whether it's going to impact the judiciary or the executive or the public at large. So you can see the power within their hands, okay? And then I also want to bring back the aspect of these are elected individuals who represent different interests. And then this is where we come in as public. We cannot say, we cannot just talk of political interference without bringing our role into that. We've played a role. Because sometimes we elect leaders based on, we are very subjective when it comes to electing leaders. And very few regions actually elect leaders based objectively. And you can see how they have really, they're ahead. Even with all these historical injustices, there are some representatives, you look at what they've done for their constituencies, and then you always ask yourself, what is it that this representative has that mine does not have? So it all, at the end of the day, if we have a public service that is protected in this way, and Dr. Sylvester has talked about, and I'm glad he used his own example when he recruited someone just online. So we need to eliminate the issues of, can you take this person for me? And how can we do that? If here we are talking about innovations, agility, and then technology is here with us. I strongly believe technology is the only connection anyone who needs to serve this country should have. And we cannot achieve that until we work on the infrastructures. We might all be seated here and thinking that the whole country is connected, whether it is calls or even internet. But the answer is no. There are some places right now, they have to go to certain spot to receive calls. So how we can insulate is three things. Let's hire and promote meritocracy. Yes, they might have influence on us in terms of legislation, but it should not be a given that, let me use the example of recruitment. Just because it was recommended by let's say a politician, it's a given. It has to be through merit. Because remember, it has a ripple effect. That person you're bringing in, is he going to be someone who is result-oriented, or you'll always have at the back of your mind, because he came here as a favor, and then he won't deliver. So we have to promote meritocracy, and then we also need to strengthen our leadership and integrity. I know even those politicians, they have to submit a lot of documents, whether it is about the integrity issues, the financials and everything. So how do we follow up to ensure that we are auditing those documents and even their own? Remember, if you go to our own parliament, they have their own strategic plan. Is anyone even aware, and are you even following up on how are they implementing the same? And then finally, we need to strengthen our accountability framework, whereby even as politicians, and let me use the word legislators, do all these policies for us, how are they accountable to us, to the public? And then I want to finalize with the issue of corruption. You know, sometimes I tell people, who initiates corruption? And let me just use a simple example here today. When we walked out of this door, we were all given lunch vouchers. Can you imagine if someone said, for you to get it, I have to give you 100. You have to give me back 100. And every time they're taking that, they're whispering to you. And then we all give, or we all refuse. So we can end corruption, and at the end of the day, that lunch must be eaten. So they cannot stay with those vouchers. They will have to distribute. So how committed are we to ensure that we fight corruption as the public? It doesn't manifest by itself. We initiate it as the public. So we will get that service, because remember, this person has the key performance indicators he has to reach. So you'll go back there tomorrow, the day after, that road must be repaired, it must be developed, that service must be delivered. These birth certificates that the CS talked about, that no one is collecting them, must be collected if we all stood together collectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. So, Caleb Ngala, your third one, I think, was on registration of groups, but this one is something that the rapporteurs have to pick to the respective agency. We may not be able to discuss about the rates and costs, but the concern is something that will be picked, and then we'll convey it accordingly with your sentiments. So the last one was from the last one from the plenary was from one of the rapporteurs, and there was discussion on this, Dr. Scott, over lunch hour about public participation and how it's been conducted. It is true that Kenya stands as a beacon in respect of public participation, and we appear to have picked it from at the constitutional level, and the observation in terms of implementation is still being done. But you are right, the concerns have been raised that sometimes, I think 3 months ago, there was the issue of politicians busing people to town hall meetings, picking on specific individuals to give opinions and stuff. So those are complaints that are still arising, much as we are rooted correctly in the Constitution and the implementation is on. So you are right in stating that there is need to relook this public participation space. So maybe some quick comments. Sorry, yeah, I want you will all do that. So, so just quick comments from each one of you, starting with Dr. Obonyo.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to emphasize also that there is a framework on public participation that is being developed by Parliament. So we shall have a very clear framework that addresses public participation so that people just are not gathered and then they go in. Then I wanted to also emphasize the issue of a neutral public service. You know, the political interference in the public service in Kenya, especially after 2010 constitution, we are borrowing from what we are saying we are a presidential system, where the president comes in with advisors. I'm following very keenly the impact of Trump's fallout with Elon Musk. Trump brought in Elon Musk to lead the government efficiency unit. And after coming in and say that the government is over-bloated and abolishing USAID and a lot of aid agencies and causing chaos worldwide, Elon Musk and Trump has fallen out, and Elon Musk has resigned from the public service. Where does that leave Trump and his service delivery? That shows us that really, in some of the cases, political interference in the management of public service might not necessarily be to the advantage of the politician in office. Trump is now picking the losses. If it was led by a professional and neutral public servant, they would have really given neutral and professional opinion. So I think there are dangers, and I'm currently looking at service delivery and political and issues of social mobility around all those things. And I think the case of Trump and Elon Musk is a very clear case to show that public service should be very far from politics.
Thank you. I want to add on the public participation, and I know there is a framework which is being developed, but you know, work does not stop. You can see there are a lot of public participations happening, and this is what I will recommend. You know, it's one thing to collect opinion, and the missing link I see is that when it comes to validation, people are not given feedback on why the issues they raised were not taken, or maybe it was rephrased in a different way. And I will go back to the issue of technology. So this is what happens. You've taken people through public participation. So when you're coming back for validation, it has to be inclusive. Inclusive in a way that if you've gone through all either the 8 regions, because that's what I've seen, or the 47 counties, you have to ensure that you provide a platform, if it's at a national level, that people can follow and invite them, those who gave their opinion, and they can be aware, and that's how you can actually restore public trust. So when you're doing that, if you do it online, please, I will encourage everyone, make sure you take the consent in terms of getting their contacts, and then in nowadays to make sure that nobody is impersonating the other person, then create a link whereby they can actually upload their IDs on both sides, not just one side, both sides. And that's how you can ensure transparency, and for you to be accountable in that public participation, then go back for validation and ensure everyone who gave their feedback is given an opportunity. And some of them, the feedback can be consolidated, others you can explain why we cannot take into consideration. And that actually helps us to restore public trust, and they know you've listened and you looked at it. But the tradition right now is we have to do public participation, tick, and then let me pick for Kuresha and leave for Dr. Sylvester. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to agree with my co-discussant that feedback is key in public participation, because you need to be told why, for example, when you are coming up with a policy, your views were not taken into consideration. So as we work on the framework, I think it will be very important to make use of the digital spaces. This will make it more interactive. There will also be feedback mechanism coming back to the participants. You guys you've also talked about the 47 counties. So from where I sit, we still feel marginalized. We are the 48th county as diaspora. So even as we come up with this framework, it's a kind request that we could also get, how do we involve our diaspora? Because we have diasporians who are out of the country on short-term, long-term, all different kind of diasporians. Is it possible so that we can bring the trust back from them? They've lost trust with us. They feel like we are only interested with their remittances, their money. As part of public participation, we also need to have the 48th county being included. And the use of the media, the digital space will really enhance that, so that now we can also bring the national cohesion and remove the marginalization that we are feeling. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So again, public participation obviously is a very important aspect of governance. Efforts are being done in many African countries, but again, this is another area that we all have to have a lot of homework and to do and to make sure that we fulfill them. What are some of the outstanding areas that we should look at? Sometimes the public feel that public participation forum is stage managed, and that the type of questions that are supposed to be put there, the people who even attend the programs of the forum are even managed from behind. This is something that all of us should try to work at, so that we raise that sort of thing from the public mind, that when we even attend the forum, we are gate crash, we are not allowed to ask the questions that we want to ask, and that specific questions are already fixed on the table. The second issue that has to be resolved is the matter of technology, which Madam raised. Technology as part of public participation is very, very important. But then we realize in some of the communities, both in Kenya and Ghana, my own country, that many of the rural areas, internet connectivity is very low. So then if I want to participate through social media, through Facebook, through Twitter, or through whatever means, how am I going to? And I cannot travel all the way from my village to Accra, or from wherever am I to Nairobi, how am I going to? This is very important. We have to fulfill this and ensure that internet and technology is used as much as possible in the area of public participation, so that even people can sit in their homes and make contribution to the public participation. The last point is about the issue of information generally which are placed for the availability or accessibility of the public, so that they will be able even to understand the issues which we are supposed to discuss. For example, if we place issues of revenue, national revenue generation, or budget, or issues on the table, and we are about 100 here in some of the regions, we first have to let people, should have educated people already on the concept of budget and the purposes of budget for all of us to understand, so that we can participate effectively. And then people should realize the relevance of the participation that we did last year. Last year we came to meet here, we said all sorts of things. So what is the feedback? People are saying that maybe when we award a road contract, we should fix board, notice board in various sections of the road, indicating the cost of the project, which contractor is fulfilling that project, and so on and so forth. So that then we see that, yes, when we met last year, we said that 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is being done. These are some of all these have to be done, but I believe it takes time, but we believe that if you work on it, we'll be able to improve public trust and public confidence through public participation. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Dr. Scott. So as we wind up, there's something I wanted, quick comments from each one of you. In addressing the historical gaps and any injustices that have, looking at Kenya, are we having a gap in the legal policy framework, or is it a case of more implementation, more effective implementation? Your quick ones, Doctor.
I think the Constitution lays a very good framework for inequalities. Through the counties, we have no problem. In my view, I think it is a question of implementation. And that's why at times you wonder that counties are given, at times, more or less equal budget. But why is it that some counties are more developed than others? Why is it that in spite of equal allocation, there seems to be development others? So I think it is not so much of a legal framework. It is so much about implementation, implementation, implementation. We have the legal framework. We have the human resource. We have all that it takes. It's only that we are very poor at implementation.
Thank you. I agree with Daktari that we have the Constitution and we also have legal frameworks. We even have state departments or even commissions, which all they do is work about addressing these historical injustices. The question is, when they bring back those audits, are we really serious in implementing? I want to use an example of the public service, the Principles and Values of Public Service report, which they publish annually. A lot of manpower goes into that report, and it even goes ahead to show ministry by ministry, state department by state department on how we are faring, state corporations. But the question I always ask myself is, how do we implement that report afterward? And who is held accountable? Is it the CEO or the board? So it is actually an implementation thing. And let me bring to the sector I represent, the HR. You know, I want to use HR as a driver of addressing everything that we talk about here. And the first example I want to use is that we need to address historical injustices, because with devolution in place, we have to take advantage of mentorship. Those who are left behind, how do we bring them forward? And I just want to use myself as an example. I came to the public service just 4 years ago, and a very senior, when he had my profile, he asked me, at your age, how did you climb the ladder? And I told him I worked in a sector whereby nobody saw me as a Somali, nobody saw me as a young girl, but they saw what I had to offer. And that has led to my promotions. I know within the public service we have career progression, but we have to invest in the leadership and build mentoring the youth within the public service. I think if we are very transparent in that, invest in HR. And one last thing, we've gone through the public participation for the budget, the finance bill, I mean. And when it comes to parliament, there is one area that they will always target, and that touches on the public service, whether it's trainings or any other allowances for the public service. And the question I asked is, as a country, if we need to get ahead of others, we have to invest in continuous learning. And if we keep on slashing the budget of the capacity building, then we will not be at par with our peers. So we have to protect, ring fence within the finance bill that benefits touching on employees, public service, and then anything that has been ring fenced for capacity building, that should be a no-go zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Kuresha. Dr. Scott, your quick comments on that, and then Madam will address us on the diaspora and migrant workers, because apparently PS Labor is not with us.
Yes, thank you very much. I also support the idea that the issue lies more with implementation than the documents in availability. Many of the African countries have good constitutions. They have policy documents which are very fresh, and if you read the documents, they are very sharp and precise as to what is to be done. Of course, we need to review and improve on them as we go along. So documentation, constitution, for now, I think they will be okay. But the implementation, the key problem with implementation is even in the area of coordination. I used to be in the work in the ministry in Ghana for many years. My last ministry was Ministry of Environment. And you realize that some of the policies we were implementing as Ministry of Environment was also being implemented by the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Science. And and it's the same thing. And the budget overlap and all that. So we need to coordinate. Let me finalize by also talking about my organization and how we are working at these things to ensure that some of the problems that has come on the floor are being resolved. As African Association for Public Administration and Management, we hold regular conferences and training programs. And at those training programs and conferences, many of these questions come on the table. And we try as much as possible to share ideas from Zambia, Nigeria, Ghana, and we share ideas what is being done at these workshops and come. We do publications. We have books and journals which talks about almost all the topics that and we expect that we will make some available to you. We do research. Many of these topics that have come on the floor, we have researched into it. We have information which we make available. Finally, we do awards. And when we miss for awards, countries or individuals who have done so well, we try to reward them so that they can go on doing better. So effort is being done all over. We believe that as time goes on, country by country, individual by individual, things will improve. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. From County 48, it's both implementation, widening the scope, and ensuring that there are some legislations that also need to be done so that we can have the migrant workers and the diasporians participating. I'll give an example of the electoral process, for example. It's only a few missions, a few of our foreign missions that will have a voting booth, only for the presidential. So when we talk to the diaspora, they still feel that they are really marginalized. They are not included in our national development processes in the country, yet they are expected really to participate in one way or the other one. So that is one of it. If you look at the kind of skills and expertise that they possess, they wonder how can they also be integrated into our national development. They are willing to come back as doctors and nurses and medics, engineers, name it. But can our public service possibly also allow, have a way of integrating diasporians to bring back the experience that they gain while working out there? So we feel like there's need to expand the scope for inclusivity and for national cohesion and also to build trust. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gitone. My time is up. Although a member of the audience is asking me to ask Dr. Obonyo to tell us quickly, how does leveraging in ICT address historical inequalities? leveraging in ICT, how does it assist address inequalities?
ICT is a platform for service delivery. And we have realized that through ICT, we can leverage on a lot of services. Literally most of the services that we look at. There is even telemedicine now, which means that if you have good ICT equipment, even in Mandera, far-flung areas, they can be in touch with a doctor at Kenyatta. So ICT and the fourth industrial revolution is the way for the public service to go. You don't need to travel long distances. And because of ICT is also so much advanced now, other than just even having the cable connection, you can have satellite connectivity. So I think very well that ICT can be an enabler. We now even have the Open University. Through the Open University, you can take your lessons anywhere in the country. So I think through ICT, we can do a lot in not only in improving service delivery, but also making service accessible to what has been looked at remote areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Obonyo, Madam Kuresha, Dr. Scott, and Madam Judy for participating in this. We'll take this forward some other time. Thank you so much, MC. Back to you.
Thank you so much, audience. Let us appreciate the panelists, starting from the presenter, Dr. Sylvester. Kindly don't leave that space. Kindly don't leave there. Don't leave there. Huduma Kenya kindly choir, we need to give a bit of something to our panelists. Kindly, you should be on the ground now. Huduma choir, you should be on the ground. Give us a small bit for the panelists because of the good job they've done. The presenter, Dr. Sylvester Obonyo, the PhD, our good Deputy Commissioner Secretary, taking cognizance of our moderator, Mr. Mongo Chimwaga, the Secretary Administration State Department for Performance and Delivery Management, Madam Ruth Kitonyi, Assistant Director of Foreign Services and the State Department for Diaspora Affairs, Dr. George Scott, the Secretary General of African Association for Public Administration and Management, and our Chief Executive Officer, Institute of Human Resource Management, Madam Goresha Abdullahi. Huduma Kenya Choir, what are you giving our guests as they leave? Remember, we are also winding up with the national anthem, so once we give the song to our team, and give them something danceable. Danceable. Yes. So ungekuwa umeanza mwalimu? And I also invite all of us as we come to the end of the day, as we come to the closure of the day, you also join the auditorium down there. We do a small jig together and then we will wrap up with the national anthem. All of us kindly, if you feel at liberty, join our guests. Wale wote tumeketi, tafadhali tusimame, tujiunge na panelist wetu pale chini. Tumalize in style ili wale hawakurudi they'll miss this part. Tuteremke wote pale chini. Asanteni sana. Yeah, all of us, let's go down. Let's go down, have a music together with the team. All of us, those who are on my left. Let's go down and have fun together. Let's encourage the guests. Let's move down to the chini. Mwalimu na kutumia wananchi. Have the audience, mwalimu. Let us join the choir. Nobody should be seated kindly. All of us, let's join. Rapporteurs, are you reporting the song? No dancing at the terraces. Hakuna. Uongo. Twende chini.
Kenya gonga buza.
I'm waiting for the reporters table. I'm double sure they are not reporting the song. I'm also joining you. Let us encourage each other to drop. Let us have fun together. It is a celebration. We cannot end it in any other another style apart from whatever we are doing. Thank you so much, Dr. George Scott. Daktari Sylvester Obonga. Bwana Chimwaga.
Daktari Gongabuza.
Wapi my sister Ruth Kitonyi?
Gongabuza. Angote Gongabuza.
Wapi Simon Angote?
Gongabuza. Angote Gongabuza.
Dr. Rachel Gesa.
Angote Gongabuza. Gongabuza.
Wapi dada Kiresha?
Gongabuza.
Anaitwa Simon Angote, anaonyesha miondoko. Anasema ni Lipala.
Director Gongabuza.
Lipala. Angalia bwana Angote anazielewa.
Gongabuza. Okenya Gongabuza. Mwana mberi bayaye. Bayaye we. Mwana mberi ni Kenya. Ni Kenya we. Mwana mberi ni Kenya. Ni Kenya we. Mwana mberi Angote. Getone we. Mwana mberi director of viongozi we. Mwana mberi PSC we. Mwana mberi Angote we.
Hata sign language interpreters wana interpret wimbo. Can we join the singing? Hata wimbo mna interpret. Sign language interpreters.
Mwana mberi ni Kenya. Ni Kenya we. Mwana mberi watu wote. Watu wote we.
Asante.
Watu wote. Watu wote we. Mwana mberi koyero.
Allow me, thank you so much. Allow me just to make an announcement as we stand there so that we come to the closure of our program. Tomorrow is our day 2, Wednesday 11th. And a number of the questions that have been asked about access to information and accountability will be dealt with tomorrow. I'm requesting the choir kindly to now to form up as we wind up with the national anthem. The choir kindly, let's form up. Nitaomba sote sasa tuwe wima, wale ambao wameketi tusimame, tumalizie kwa wimbo wa taifa wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Wimbo wa taifa. Thank you so much, Huduma Kenya Choir. Thank you so much, the guests. Tomorrow we are starting at exactly 8:30, so choir be on standby at 8:30 for the anthem to start with. Tunaweza pata moja tu ya kufanyizia malizia. Moja tu ya wageni wakiondoka, mwalimu. Bwana Shem, an exit song. Mr. Shem, an exit song. Moja tu ya kumalizia.